There's a fear most people carry quietly into their 50s and 60s. Not the fear of getting older exactly. Older is fine. What people actually fear is the shape of it. Growing old in a way that makes you invisible. Losing the things that made you feel like yourself. Becoming, somewhere along the way, a burden. You probably know the feeling. The career that once defined you starts to wind down. The children leave. The social rhythms that structured your days for decades start to blur. And at some point you find yourself wondering, what am I actually for now? Western culture doesn't have a good answer to that question. It tends to offer retirement as the prize at the end, and then leave you entirely on your own to figure out what to do with it. The result, for a lot of people, is a long, quiet unraveling. Now, before we talk about Japan, let me be clear. They are facing the same aging crisis as every other developed nation. They even have a word for it. Kodokushi, solitary death. The death of a person who was so isolated, so without connection, that their body wasn't discovered for days or weeks. It's a word that carries a kind of quiet horror. And yet, in the very same country, there are seniors in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s who wake up every morning with somewhere to be and someone who expects them. These are the seniors we can borrow from. They have what the Japanese call an Ibasho, a place where you are known, recognized, and at home. The difference between those two outcomes isn't luck or genetics. It's structural, and it's worth understanding so you can apply these lessons from Japan to your own life. There's a concept at the heart of this that tends to get oversimplified in the West. Ikigai. Most people encounter it as a Venn diagram, the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Grand, abstract, almost impossible to apply. But in Japan, particularly among older adults, Ikigai is understood much more quietly than that. A 102-year-old Okinawan man in a long-running longevity study had one. 2 prize bulls he visited and tended to every single day. That was it. Not a calling, not a mission. 2 bulls and a daily routine. Researchers studying Japanese centenarians found that the people who lived longest weren't the ones with the grandest purposes. They were the ones who never lost the small daily reasons to get out of bed. This reframing matters more than it might seem, because most people, when they hear the word purpose, feel pressure. They think it has to be large, earned, announced. And when they can't find that, they conclude they have no purpose at all. Japan's version of Ikigai in aging doesn't ask you to find your calling. It asks you to find a Tuesday. A reason the Tuesday after that matters too. Now, here's where it gets specific. Japan has a neighborhood structure called the Chonikai, the local residents association. Almost every neighborhood in Japan has one. And within those associations, specific roles are formally assigned to older members of the community. Someone is responsible for coordinating the trash collection zone, making sure residents know which items go out on which mornings, ensuring the shared space is orderly. Someone else manages the community bulletin board. Another person guides children across the school crossing at 7:30 each morning. These are not symbolic gestures. They are actual functions the neighborhood depends on. The role comes with a schedule, a small sense of authority, and crucially, other people who notice if you don't show up. This is not what we typically picture when we think about respecting the elderly. We picture gestures, deference, a seat on the bus. What the Chonikai creates is something different and more useful, a structural reason for an older person to be seen and needed in the daily life of their community. A 2017 cohort study published in BMC Geriatrics tracked over 15,000 community-dwelling Japanese adults aged 65 and older for nearly a decade. Researchers from the National Center for Geriatrics and Gerontology in Obu, Japan, found that older adults who held leadership positions within civic organizations had considerably lower rates of dementia onset than those who were either non-participants or regular members without formal roles. It wasn't just being involved, it was having a specific task. something the group relied on you to do. The brain, it turns out, needs something to manage. Now bring that down to the smallest possible scale, 6:30 in the morning, in a park or on a side street in any city in Japan, a small group of people, some of them in their 80s, gathering with no fanfare in whatever they happen to be wearing. A radio crackles, piano music begins, and they move. Rajyo Taiso has been running in Japan since 1928, formally introduced by the government during the enthronement of Emperor Hirohito. Japan Post Insurance brought the idea back from the United States, where a similar routine had aired on the radio. But what Japan built from it is something the United States never quite managed: a ritual, a daily appointment that is simultaneously physical, social, and rhythmic. About 27 million people still practice Rajyo Taiso twice a week or more. The movements last less than 4 minutes. Nobody is getting an athletic workout. That is entirely beside the point. The Japan Gerontological Evaluation Study, a long-running population cohort, found that older adults who practiced Rajyo Taiso had a reduced risk of dementia compared to those who didn't exercise at all. But what the numbers don't quite capture is the social architecture of it. You know the people at your morning spot. They notice when someone is missing, they ask, they check in. The exercises are almost incidental to what's actually happening, which is a daily structure of mutual recognition. A group of people who know they belong to the same routine. That belonging is not a small thing. Research out of Chiba University found that among older Japanese adults who lived alone, those who spoke to someone every day had social health profiles closer to those living with others. The daily check-in, the casual word exchanged at the park, the recognition of a face, it registers in the body the same way deeper connection does. The nervous system doesn't require intimacy. It requires contact, rhythm, the knowledge that someone will notice if you're gone. And then there is the concept that holds all of this together: Ibasho. The word literally refers to a place where you exist, your location. But the meaning is richer than that. Ibasho is a place where you feel at home, safe, and recognized by others, not tolerated, not accommodated. Recognized. Yourself. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Gerontology examined older adults in a marginalized Japanese community over 10 years, between 2009 and 2019, surveying nearly 900 residents. Researcher Yuichi Watanabe at Musashino University found that engagement in Ibasho activities, hosting a tea gathering, leading a small workshop, maintaining a role in the group, was a significant predictor of objective well-being, significant enough to show up even after controlling for age, health status, economic situation, and whether someone lived alone. What Ibasho creates is not just friendship. It's something slightly more structural than friendship. It's a place where you have a function, where the group is, in some small way, incomplete without you. This is the answer to the fear of becoming a burden. Not reassurance that you won't be one, not, don't worry, we'll take care of you. The answer is a role so specific, so embedded in daily life, that the question almost stops arising. You are not a burden. You are the person who makes sure the trash zone runs correctly. You are the person who helps the children cross. You are the person who always shows up at 6:30 whose absence would be noticed before breakfast. A 2017 study in Ofunato, Tohoku, conducted in the aftermath of the Great East Japan earthquake, surveyed more than 1,100 residents to measure the impact of Ibasho-style programs on older adults. Those who participated as leaders and contributors showed significantly higher social capital, stronger community ties, and more stable routines than those who did not, even in the middle of post-disaster recovery. The conclusion was not complicated. When elders are embedded as assets rather than placed aside as recipients, everything around them stabilizes, including them. Here's what all of this points toward. The fear of aging alone is real, and it's worth taking seriously. But the antidote isn't companionship exactly. It isn't even purpose in the grand sense. It's something smaller and more durable than both of those. It's a consistent role in a consistent place among people who will notice if you don't appear. You don't have to live in Japan to borrow this. The chonaikai doesn't exist in most Western countries, but its function can be approximated. A library that needs a regular volunteer to run a small program. A neighborhood group that manages a shared garden. A faith community where someone has to open the doors every Sunday morning. A local sports club where someone keeps the score. The role doesn't need to feel important. It needs to feel expected. Your Ibasho might be modest. A corner table at the same coffee shop where the staff know your order. A walking group that texts if you miss a day. A small recurring responsibility in a place that would, in the quietest way, feel your absence. The Japanese have spent centuries understanding something that modern life keeps trying to convince us isn't true. That the self doesn't flourish in isolation. It flourishes in relation. In the small, specific texture of being needed. Somewhere. Not grandly, not heroically. Just somewhere. Consistently. By people who would notice. Is there a place in your life where you are consistent? A place where people would notice if you didn't show up? Think of one and let me know in the comments. If what we talked about today stayed with you, there's a question it naturally leads to. We've talked about having a place, but what about the people in it? The Japanese have a word for the bonds that form there, kizuna. And what's strange about it is how little those bonds seem to require. No grand gestures or constant maintenance. Just something quiet and durable that most of us in the West have quietly stopped believing in. That's the next one. I'll see you there.